He is the man who bought the champion race mare Winx, and he's done just about everything in racing. He is Guy Mulcaster. Well, Guy, let's start with Winx. What did you like about her? What really grabbed you the first time you saw her?
We came to a sale, Adam, with a budget, and it was a very firm budget. We have a process that we do. We go to the farms and see the horses. We come to the sales, we make a list. We try and make a list of horses that we can afford. We had an order from the group, Peter Tye and Debbie Peterson, Richard Treweek, to buy a filly for $200,000. For the first 2.5 days of the sale, it didn't work. On the third day, they had a group meeting amongst themselves, and they came back to us with a new budget of $230,000. There was a filly on that day that we thought would be very hard to beat. They spent their maximum budget, and that was Winx.
Incredible. So you would feel such a part of it, though, as she blazed the 33 wins in a row, 25 Group 1s, $26 million. I mean, you're a part of racing folklore now.
Well, you know, you get a mare like that, and she's out of a Kiwi race mare that managed to survive 52 races with Graham Rogerson. She always had the capacity to do that sort of thing.
Of course, you're known as the man who bought Winx, but let's talk about a few others. The Autumn Sun, we didn't see much of this horse, but freakish is not an outlandish statement.
He came up early in the sale. He was a magnificent horse by Readout's Choice. He came from Arrowfield Stud. I sat down in the auditorium and Mr. Shung's racing manager sat next to me, and I said, well, how are we looking here? He said, the boss said just to keep going. We managed to get him for $700,000, which was $100,000 under budget, and he was the Autumn Sun.
8 wins from 9 starts, Caulfield Guineas, Rosehill Guineas, amongst other things. Home Affairs is another one. So we're going to talk about the Chris Waller relationship, but you're certainly not exclusive to Chris, obviously.
Well, 4 years ago, Coolmore Stud came to Chris and said they wanted to do a Colts fund. And luckily for me, he said, well, I'd love to train the horses, but I'd like to have Guy involved in the selection of them. And I'm only a small piece of the pie, but, you know, to be able to work with people like this is absolutely amazing. And we were lucky enough to get Home Affairs in our first year, to win a Lightning and win a Coolmore, and for him to go to stud. And he's been terribly fertile his first year, and I can't see why he won't leave good racehorses.
So many other names as well, and we won't go into them all, but Preferment was an early one and a special one for you in the Bloodstock. Kermadec, Sacred Falls, Catkins. Colding won the first Golden Eagle.
Yeah, and Colding was really good because he was a tough horse. You know, when you pick up $6 million in one afternoon, the party at the night was pretty good.
It's been a terrific last 12 months for you with some horses that have had success and look to have a lot more to come. Manzoice, Derby, Victoria Derby, Zoo Gotcha, absolutely untapped. Very exciting couple there.
Yes, they are. Like Manzoice was a very, very good training effort. We always had the Derby in mind. You sort of got to Flemington knowing he was going to get the trip, but how quick he was going to get the trip, you weren't quite sure. But good things happen to good people, you know. They're lovely, lovely owners.
How good is Zoo Gotcha?
Untapped. She won the Princess Series by only competing in 3 legs. Come back, amazing. Look forward to seeing a really good filly in the autumn.
So let's talk a bit more about the Chris Waller relationship. How did it start? When did it start? And a lot of the early part was this going and buying cheapish stayers from the Northern Hemisphere.
You know, we've been friends for a few years. Chris had started training in Sydney, used to come to Karaka and try really hard to buy horses, but you know, if you can't take a knife to a gunfight, can you? He didn't have any money, I didn't have any money, so we were just sort of snipping around the edges and that. And the first year we went, we collected all our money, and we had enough money to buy 2 horses for £20,000 each. The first year those 2 horses came back, they managed, through being very, very well trained, to both win a Saturday race. That was enough to get us to go back next year with probably double the budget. The third year we went back and we bought 8 horses, and we had an amazing horse called Foreteller amongst them.
Yeah, lovely horse. So obviously you're known as Guy Mulcaster, the Bloodstock agent, but you've got so much of a racing history behind you. Like as a horseman, you worked with the greats, Dave O'Sullivan, Mike Maroney. You were in a training partnership with Laurie Laxon, and you had a lot to do with that wonderful mare, Champagne. I think you finished up with him just before she ran second in the Melbourne Cup.
When she ran second in the Melbourne Cup, Laurie Laxon was going to Singapore. I didn't really know if it was going to be sort of my sort of go at that stage. I'd been bid spotting at New Zealand Bloodstock, so Peter Vella was good enough to give me a job there, and I worked in the air freight division for about 4 years, which I hated every moment of. All I wanted to do was be a Bloodstock agent, and then after 4 years, I'd done my time, and he moved me over to the Bloodstock division.
And you breed a few?
I do, yes. I've been lucky enough to breed with a couple of friends of mine, and we bought an Astern filly about 5 years ago. She was a striker mare that was in foal to Astern. The Astern came out and we couldn't sell her at the yearling sales, and I sold her some clients and she became stakes winner. And the second foal out of the mare is a very promising horse in Melbourne called Virtuous Circle.
So you live here at Broadbeach, but you do spend a lot of time travelling or out and about inspecting horses and physically getting to the sales as well. Tell us a bit more about that.
So basically from the first week of December, you're getting ready for Magic Millions. Second and third weeks in December, you'll go to Hunter Valley, you'll see 600 horses in about 5 days and talk to the vendors and that sort of thing. Come back here the week before Christmas, you do a run around Toowoomba and Warwick, and then you get onto the sales ground 6 days before the sale, and you've got probably nearly 300 horses to see again, plus all the ones you like. Then the ones you like from that lot, you see them again, and then you see the ones you really want to buy once again. So you'd probably see 1,800 to 2,000 heads.
Wow, that's just amazing. I mean, the preparation for it, and obviously it's just, you know, recently finished up the Magic Millions, but do you have an order list, if I put it that way, from all your clients?
I think you just have to know what they want. You know, if you start forcing horses onto people, they start thinking it's like overkill. They'll come to me in the weeks leading up and I'll say, hey, we've got one of those. Do we want another one of those? Do we want something different? What do you think of these two first season size? You know, and without really saying what do you want to spend, you've still got to have some sort of ballpark.
All right. Under the pump time, we've talked about those horses that you've had success with, you know, and we're watching Manzois, who got you, Madame Pomeroy as well, but is there another couple of maybe left fielders, a couple that you've bought that you're really excited about over, say, the next 12 months?
Well, there's a horse that's been running up here in Brisbane. He's had 5 starts for 4 wins called Kovalika. He probably came up here nearly at the end of his tether and he enjoyed the sunshine like all of us do up here in Queensland. And he won his first Queensland start by 4 lengths, and he came back 3 weeks later and he was even more impressive. So I think Kovalika could be a Derby horse.
Osipenko?
I loved his run in the Caulfield Guineas. I'm pretty confident that he's come back pretty well. I think there's a big race in him.
Great stuff. Guy, it's been an absolute pleasure. As long as you're around, you'll be the man who found Winx, but it's been terrific to find out a little bit more about the story behind the man who found Winx. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam, and look forward to seeing you in Darwin next year.